Tando did actually start a recording, but stopped it. So I started the recording just now. So that's perfect. It will be made available to you guys at the end. Well, probably tomorrow or so. I will send a link because I upload them to YouTube. So yes. I'm going to give it 1 more minute. I see that we're not going to be as many as usual in this meeting, but that's fine as well. So we can actually just get ourselves started, and then yeah, I'm going to give it 1 more minute and then I'll start. Okay, ladies and gents, it is now officially 4 o'clock. So we have a lot, it's not a long presentation, but we have quite a few things to say to each other. So let's get started. Just you've noticed that your cameras are switched off from my side, but your mics are enabled. So if you have any questions, you are always more than welcome to ask them. Right, so without further ado, let's get started. This is webinar 3, How Should I Study? Many people struggle to know how they should study because we are all different and we don't know where to start necessarily. So study methods and study skills are different but related concepts, and they refer to different aspects of the learning process. We're going to look at study skills and we're going to look at some methods as well. Study skills are general abilities and strategies that you will have to acquire to organize, retain, and recall information. We will look at note-taking, active listening, and critical reading and comprehension skills. And on the other hand, study methods are practical, applicable approaches to study. These methods are usually more individual and will be specific to your individual strength. The webinar will focus on recalling and listing at least 5 essential study skills. It will explain the differences between study skills and study methods and provide examples of each and evaluate the effectiveness of a study method in improving a particular study skill, considering factors like personal learning preferences and the nature of the material. Unfortunately, no one can give you advice for laziness. It might be worth doing some introspection if you consider that this might be part of your problem. Unfortunately, we all have the tendency to need to rest as well. So you need to schedule your rest so that it doesn't become a tendency to be lazy, right? With me saying this, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just saying that it is sometimes the cause of us not getting through our work. Okay, so how can I set myself up for success? There are 2 major things that will make you successful. The first thing is to have medium-term goals. What I mean by this is you need to know what you want to do. What are you working towards? While you are going through your work, it is also advised that you have the modules you are enrolled for and the goals for each of the module in terms of percentage written down. And 2, time management, which does go hand in hand with laziness. After the previous webinars, you should have a better idea of how to manage time and adhere to your own deadlines. So if you are struggling with these 2 things, we did cover them in previous webinars, and you are welcome to send me an email and ask me for the link. Okay. Right. Another way in which you can, or other ways in which you can set yourself up is to be self-directed, to take ownership of your own studies, to be motivated, to build content knowledge, and to use your time and resources wisely. If you want to study like a pro, firstly, you have to do pre-reading. This is where you skim through the work before going to class. You can focus on the study unit outcomes and try to figure out what you already understand and what you should pay attention to when you attend class. Secondly, when you are in class, it is very important that you listen actively. You must avoid distractions. The easiest way to do this is to put your phone away, take out your pencil, and try to write down what you are hearing. This is also a skill that most students struggle with, but it will become easier with time. Okay, it just means that your mind and your hand are engaged. Finally, you must redo the notes. So I know this sounds like, I mean, really, where should we get time? But writing is a significant part of encoding and processing information. By redoing the notes, you will repeat your work and be able to combine class notes and pre-reading notes to ensure that you understand what the lecturer taught you. Imagine that each module that you are enrolled for is building a house. When you have done the pre-reading and you have done the class notes, you are actually only at this level with your house. So you've actually only laid the foundation and probably the floors as well. If you want to build on this, you have I'm sorry. So if you want to build on this, this is the upcoming webinars. We will look at building the walls and the windows. This is where we look at, okay, how do I put this time and effort in, right? The roof is basically what you need to do for the exams, right? So each of your tests that you are doing is like a level of the house. And then all of these levels build up to become the exam that you are writing. So if you have a friend who tells you that they'll study the day before the test, or they have too much work to plan and to do all of this preparation, then you should tell them that this is not a good idea. You say that this is precisely why they feel overwhelmed. They are leaving everything until the last minute and then struggling to catch up, which leads them to feel overwhelmed and in a panic all the time. So if this is why if you are feeling in a panic all the time and like you're not getting ahead, it might be because you are feeling overwhelmed because you haven't started yet, right? The best thing to do is to start. Okay, you can also tell them, don't cram your work. Successful students typically space their work out over shorter periods and rarely try to cram their studying into 1 or 2 sessions. Be consistent and work continuously over the whole semester. Be consistent. It is vital that you are consistent in implementing your routine and that studying is part of your daily life. So if you don't have a routine, if you're not good at routines, that is something that I can help you with. We'll get to that, how you can come and see me if you haven't been yet a little bit later. But it is very important that we set a routine and that we follow that routine. You'll be mentally and emotionally more prepared for each study session. Additionally, you must have a dedicated space to study every time. This will keep you focused as your brain will be trained to work in that specific space. This specific space can be in the library, it can be in your room, it doesn't matter where, but it should typically not overlap with spaces where you are comfortable or where you tend to relax. It is also important to have goals. You must know what you want to accomplish in each session. So I'm not talking here about how much do I want for my module overall, right? This is about sitting down and saying, for URI 171, I need to master study unit outcome 1 and 2. And I'm not allowed to get up from this desk before I can do study unit outcome 1 and 2. Avoid procrastination. This is the most difficult one typically for students. Successful students try not to procrastinate, or they schedule procrastination time. Put your phone away and out of sight, and make sure that you set an alarm which will allow you to procrastinate for that specific time. We call this the Pomodoro method. So typically you'll study for say 45 minutes and then rest for 10 minutes. Study 45 minutes, rest for 10 minutes. And during those 45 minutes, your phone should be out of sight. Then do the work that you dislike or that you find difficult first. When you start working, your brain is the most refreshed and you are more likely to focus. Once you have completed the most difficult work, it will be much easier to complete the rest of the work that you have to do for that day or for that specific period of time. Believe it or not, this will have a positive impact on your academic performance. And finally, revision is very important. Whenever you think you have extra time, go over your notes and ensure that you have a decent understanding of the work you learned during that week. This will help you prepare for the upcoming week's academic performance. I don't know if you guys knew this, but scientists have unraveled the key to memory retention. Your chance of remembering information that you have read or heard is only 34%. If you write while you study, you are about 50%, more likely to retain that information, which means that memory retention then goes up to 84%, right? Just by reading, writing, and rehearsing. So how do you then study like a pro? I don't know if you know whether you are an auditory learner, a solitary or social learner. Do you study better with words or do you study better with pictures? Maybe you walk up and down while you are speaking. Or maybe you have been copying and pasting the textbook since you got here. Here meaning university, right? It's all a little bit confusing. So let's have a look at some of the important ways to study and what method might potentially work best for you. Firstly, we will look at visual learners. Visual learners prefer to use pictures, diagrams, images, and spatial understanding to help them learn. They are excellent problem solvers, observant, and enjoy doodling and having a neat handwriting. So if these are things, maybe even using colors, if that is important to you, it might mean that you are a visual learner. The best ways to study for visual learners include sorting the info into charts, columns, or using mind maps. They also retain information from class and videos really well. It is suggested that you use Venn diagrams. So Venn diagrams is where things overlap, such as in the picture. T-charts, columns, or mind maps to stimulate your visual side. Secondly, we get auditory learners. Auditory learners retain information best by listening. If you are an auditory learner, you may have trouble making notes, so you prefer to repeat spoken directions and you are a good speaker, even though you are easily distracted by noises. If you are an auditory learner, you will benefit from studying in a group and proofreading your essays loudly before submitting them. Beneficial learning methods include using flashcards, so that's the image there, while reading out loud and teaching what you have learned to a friend. Make up a rhyme or a song to help you remember information. Read class notes aloud and then write down the most important points or the things that you can remember. Next up, we get kinesthetic learners. So kinesthetic learners also get, they are learners who appear fidgety, they can't sit still, and they use their hands quite a lot when they talk. Usually, these learners are more athletic and could have a shorter attention span, so they will have the hardest time sitting down and reading while studying. You will benefit most from using the Pomodoro method. So that method of timing yourself, giving yourself 30 minutes to study and then 10 minutes to rest, or 45 minutes or 50 minutes, including how far or how practiced you are in using the Pomodoro method. Make sure that you are not distracted while working. So kinesthetic learners, they like fidgeting and they get distracted quite easily. Writing will keep you busy, but it can also be beneficial to think of real-life examples where the topics have played themselves out. Especially here, kinesthetic learners might be better at handling case law than other types of learners. Hold your notebook and walk while reciting your notes. If you can, use a bouncing ball to sit on instead of a chair. You can also benefit from listening to music, as the beat will keep your foot tapping and distract you from sitting for too long. The important thing with listening to music is that it should be instrumental. So when you like listening to music, typically if there are words in, so that's why something like rap doesn't work, but something like house music can work quite well. It's because it stimulates the rhythm and it keeps you focused. Okay, so this is really good for people who get distracted easily. It's just important that you focus on the type of music. So if there are words in it, it will mean that you're going to focus on singing along instead of actually just using the rhythm to keep you focused. Okay, then we get verbal learners. Verbal learners prefer words and reading, and they are strong conversationalists. So these are the people who usually take leading roles in group work, etc. They also read more and enjoy bouncing ideas off of their friends. So verbal learners also use words. Words is their big thing. You benefit, if you are a verbal learner, most by taking notes during lectures, because you will in all likelihood remember the exact terminology better if you have written them down. In-depth application might not be your strong suit, and it may be beneficial to work with a friend or in pairs to develop this skill. So typically verbal learners, they don't work well in groups, but they do work well in pairs. So typically a verbal learner will need to pair with an auditory learner, and they can then teach each other, or the verbal learner will then teach the friend to ensure that they get the message of the study unit or whatever. So working together in groups of two is the best way. Then finally, we get logical learners. Logical learners are also known as mathematical learners or thinkers. These learners are very organized. They are also the learners who have a larger preference for numbers. So if you came from a BCom law background, you will in all likelihood be a better logical learner. If this sounds familiar to you, systemizing your information by making bulleted lists of important details and writing out the definitions of important concepts. Columns are also a good way to sort information for you. If you don't understand something, you will have to take apart the concept or the system to understand how the different parts fit into the whole thing. Okay, so apparently this is a much shorter presentation than what I thought it was going to be. So we have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm going to open up the floor for questions if you have any, before we get to how do I know what type of learner I am if I don't know what type of learner I am, basically, right? Is there anybody who has any questions? Anybody? Anybody? No one. Okay. Thank you for the thumbs up. I just want to make a note here. Okay, so if you are doing a mind map, I quickly want to show you an image. I'm just going to go through a couple of files. So just bear with me quickly. I just want to see where I put that file now. So if you are a visual learner, right? Just want to show you this image, okay? Okay, so if this is you, right? My study unit 1 was an introduction and context. Then what I did was my mind maps different subsections. I used the study unit outcomes to do that. So the first study unit outcomes was what is good governance. Then the second one was what is the legislative framework for good governance. Then what is the concept of subsidiarity? What is the integrated urban development framework from the UN? And then what is decentralization and subsidiarity? Okay, so this is what it would look like for a visual learner. If you are not a visual learner, just going to jump back to, where did I put that? Let me rather do it like this. Then you would have, just see, okay. So then you would have something like, this is more logical, right? So you would have your study unit here, right? So this is study unit 1, note-taking methods. Study unit 2, the first study unit outcome is the outline method. The outline method has to do with hierarchy, which helps with organization, which is visual representation, where you can use shapes, colors, and images, and it's flexible, allows for adding and making connections. So it's kind of using your study unit outcomes as your headings and then categorizing the theory underneath that, right? If you are a person who likes visual things, but mind maps are too chaotic for you, then you will most probably have clues in the side. This is also good for verbal learners or people who are stronger with words. So they'll have clues, which are keywords, questions, prompts, originating from your study unit outcomes, right? So you'll probably have clues here, and then you'll have the study unit outcome here, and these keywords will make or be connected to the information on this side. So during class or while you are reading, you'll write down the key definitions, the important facts, and the supporting details. So this is from your preparation. And then when you are in your first phase of studying, you will look at summarizing this word in your own words, because putting it into your own words means that you are not simply trying to regurgitate, but you're actually using it, making it your own, so that when we get to the application, you have a very good understanding of what the theory is. Okay, so what we're doing today is very much of how do I remember what I'm reading? Okay, another way in which you can do this is you can put the keywords in this side, and then you can have your detailed notes, and then you can probably do another additional column where you can put your cases, and then you can link this keyword with this definition with this case, or this keyword with this definition, this legislation, and that case, right? So this is one way in which you can do it. And then your summary, what you can then do is you can write out an ideal method kind of paragraph where you use the idea, the definition, the elaboration, which is in your legislation, as well as your example, which is typically going to be your case. This is also a logical method, but it can also help with verbal learners, maybe good with this. Obviously, none of us are just one type of person, right? So we can do this method, we can use this method, which is the Cornell method, right? And then we can walk up and down while reciting, because we are all combinations of. So I'm an example of someone who's visual, and I'm also a talkative learner. So I like learning through teaching. If you guys understand what I'm saying, then I feel like, okay, I understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, so this is the Cornell method, and this is where we use columns, and we write down a description. We, for instance, can say, so we can do concept here, description here, then you can do legislation here, you can do case law, and then you can probably say something like, where is this applicable? Did I hear someone unmute themselves? No. Okay. Right. So it's all about finding out what works for you. Obviously, this is mind maps. So a mind map is the central idea, and then you branch out to the sub ideas, and you use images, keywords, and colors and arrows to connect the different ideas. Okay. Right. So this is also just something we can go over: deep learning and surface learning. So typically, students are surface learners, and that's why they struggle academically, right? You have a superficial approach to learning. You're doing the bare minimum to pass. So quickly before tomorrow, you're writing, say, 275, you go through the textbook and you think, okay, I'm going to go right. Okay, so that's the bare minimum. These people are not really interested. What you are here for is a degree, not really knowledge of the law. Okay, they are only focused on assessments and not learning what they need to. They are unable to determine what the overarching theme of something is. They don't have interest in background knowledge, and they are focused on memorization and not really logic. Now, I just want to say, if this is who you are, it's not necessarily your fault. It's not because you're uninterested. It is also possible that the school system did not prepare you well enough for the application and the importance of background information and making sure how things fit together well. If you want to move from being a surface learner to becoming a deep learner, you have to be self-directed, okay? What that means is No one is going to phone you every day and ask, is your notes up to date? Okay. But if this is something that you struggle with, you can reach out to either tutors or peer mentors or myself, and we can make bi-weekly appointments to ensure that you are focused and that you are staying on track. Deep learning students are motivated and curious. They focus on higher order skills. They want to master the content. They don't only want to get a degree or pass the test. They want to physically understand it so that they can use this knowledge one day in their jobs. These kind of students can make connections between various modules. So, for instance, today I spoke with Mrs. Isop, and we spoke about how contract law and civil procedure and law clinic in your fourth year or legal practice in your fourth year all work together. Okay. Then a thorough background reading is done and they actually want to do it. They can make the connection between subjects and reality. You can also teach yourself these skills. So if these are not things that you are good at, but you want to become good at them, we can speak with each other and we can kind of see where are you lacking at the moment. If you are, maybe you think you're lacking, but you're actually very good at what you are doing and how you are doing it, then it's not necessarily a problem. Okay, everybody good so far? Just one thumbs up, please. Great, thank you very much. Okay, so that's how we use these different methods. If you are not sure how to, for instance, summarize URI 111 in the Cornell method, then you can make an appointment with me and we can sit and we can say, okay, study unit 1 of URI 111 or whatever the case may be, 275, 213 or whatever. This is how I would approach it. Maybe this makes sense for you, and then we take it from there. Okay, so you don't have to struggle through all of this on your own. How do you know what method is your method? This is a learning style quiz which you can access. So you can just scan the QR code, it will take you, it's free learning style quiz, whatever the case may be. In that thing, you have to put in your age, your gender, and then it will determine, because the physiology of the brain, right? The way in which our brains are put together between boys and girls, and even transgender people are different. So the learning style quiz, it takes about 10 minutes, and it has, like, for instance, how neat or how democor is your desk, right? And then you have to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. It can ask you, if you talk, do you talk with your hands? And then you rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. So that is the kind of questions that they ask. And at the end, they give you a summary of the type of person that you are. So, for instance, introverted people are very rarely verbal and talkative and social learners, right? Just because of the way in which their minds are put together. So this quiz does a personality analysis, and then it also tells you what type of learner you are. Are you a visual learner? Are you an auditory learner? Are you a kinesthetic learner? And it also tells you if you're a combination of different learning styles, and it gives you notes on which methods you should then follow. Okay, so let's quickly do a recap. So the two things that we put out here today are the following. Okay. We looked at how you are building your house of knowledge. Okay, so if you yeah, if you see it as a knowledge house that you are building, and you're very conscious of the fact that we can't start with the exams because we can't put the roof on before the foundations have dried, before the windows have been inserted, then it will make it more easy for you to realize what is lacking in your path to success, because everybody can be a successful student. It's just that we don't always know how. And then you need to know what type of builder you are. That's basically what your learning style is. Yes, Sam? Sam, are you speaking? Hello, Sam? Okay, no. I'm guessing no. If you are, wait, let me just check the chat. If you don't want to say something and I didn't hear you, maybe just pop it in the chat and then we can speak about it. Okay. Right. So, if you buy someone else's notes, what you are inadvertently doing is you are taking someone else's plans to build the house, and you don't have all of the material that they have, right? So someone who typically sells their notes probably comes from a different educational background as you. They have a different language level of understanding than you, and this will only cause confusion. It's very important that you make your own building map, right? Because the way in which you write things will be suited to the connections that your mind is making between the term, the definition, the legislation, and the theory. Okay. The more you work on making these plans, the better you will become at it. So your goal is obviously to have the best house on the street, right? And if you are constantly in each of your tests, in each of your days, in each of your classes, trying to become a better builder, that means that at the end of the day, you are going to build the best house that you can possibly build. Right. So that's basically what we want, is to create good builders of academic knowledge and knowledge of the law. So if you want to get in touch with me, this is not what I look like. This is an AI simulation of what I look like. Today I don't have a good hair day, so I didn't switch on my camera. But you are more than welcome to come and see what I look like in person. If you want to get in touch, that is the QR code to make a booking to come and see me. So this will take you to my bookings page. And when you do that, I can show you as well. It automatically pops up on my calendar so that I know that you are coming. I just want to ask, for instance, if I go to my bookings page, I just want to show you quickly, but I think it doesn't show it. Okay, so if you go to the PC Law Academic, right, I want you to please make sure that you, okay, right, let me just quickly, just make sure that your time zone is set to the correct time zone, meaning Central Time +2, which is Pretoria Harare time zone. That's the first thing. And in this second place, there's a place where you can make a note when you make a booking, right? In that note, please just provide me with your student number if I haven't seen you before. If I've seen you before, I have access to your student number, and that's fine. You can just come to see me again. Okay. If you want to actually just send me an email, you can just add it there. this is my email address. And you are more than welcome to just say, ma'am, I took the quiz. It tells me that I'm a mind map person, but I have no idea where to start. And then if I have resources on mind maps, I can probably find resources on how to make a mind map. Then I can just forward that to you. Or if you want to just maybe have access to the recording and I forgot to add you to the mailing list, I always mail the recording the following day, then you can also just send me an email to that email address. All right. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, I thank you for attending. If you do, please just pop it in the chat, or you're welcome to then sign off and then we can meet each other face to face or online. It doesn't really matter. But thank you very, very much for attending. Thanks, guys. Now I see who's the sleepy ones. Okay, here's the time management advice. I do. Can I use your Outlook address and then just send you maybe the recording of the webinar that we did on time management? But you're also welcome to come and see me. It doesn't really matter. You can come and see me. I can send you the link to the video. And then if you, after the video, still feel like you want to come and see me, we can do that. What I'm also going to do is when you come back from recess, I'm going to say, okay, this is how you plan for the upcoming test week. So if you have a test on this and this and this date, how do you manage all of the work for all of those tests, right? But in the meantime, I'm just going to send you that link to the video. And then if you've watched it and you still feel like, okay, I want to see ma'am, then you are more than welcome. Even if you don't want to watch it and you just want to come and see me, that's also fine. Did I answer your question? Which time zone? Okay, so let me show you. Are you on Gmail or on Outlook? Gmail or Outlook, Mr. or Miss Sanchez van Castle on Outlook. Okay, great. So that's easy enough. If you go to your calendar on Outlook, right? So this is the web version. If you go to your calendar, you go to settings here in the corner at the top, right? You will see that your calendar has time zones. It should say here UTC +2 Harare, Pretoria. It's just because sometimes people make appointments with me and then they think it's at 3 in the afternoon and then I actually wait for them at 9 in the morning or whatever the case may be. Or they send me emails to say that I was unavailable when they wanted to come and see me, but I'm available at 11 at night, for instance. And that's then when they are not in the correct time zone. Okay, I do know that my availability this week is a little bit like chaos, but you are more than welcome. See, that's my next week. So next week is much, much better. Any other questions? any other questions? Okay, ladies and gents, then I think we can switch it off. Is that fine with everybody? Great. Okay. I'm going to love and leave you. I'll send you that link tomorrow morning, first thing. Okay. Goodbye.